The universe has no edge. Let that sentence settle in your mind for a moment. Roll it around like a stone in your mouth until you taste its impossibility. The universe has no edge. We spend our entire lives surrounded by edges, defined by boundaries, contained within limits. The edge of your skin, the edge of your city, the edge of the sky above your head. Every single thing you've ever encountered, every object you've ever touched, every space you've ever occupied has had a beginning and an end. But the universe? The universe laughs at our need for edges. You've been lied to. Not maliciously. Not intentionally, but lied to nonetheless. Every time someone has told you the universe is expanding, you've pictured it like a balloon inflating into empty space, growing larger, pushing outward into some vast cosmic void. You've imagined standing at the edge of everything, looking out into nothingness, watching reality stretch into territories that were once empty. This image is burned into your consciousness, reinforced by every documentary you've ever watched, every science book you've ever read. But this image is wrong. Catastrophically, fundamentally wrong. The universe is not expanding into anything. There is no outside. There is no void waiting to be filled. There is no cosmic real estate being claimed by an ever-growing sphere of existence. When cosmologists tell you the universe is expanding, they mean something far stranger and more unsettling than you've ever been told. They mean that space itself, the very fabric of reality, the invisible stage upon which every atom dances, is stretching. Not expanding into something else, but stretching like a rubber sheet with no edges, no boundaries, no outside to expand into. Imagine you are an ant crawling across the surface of a balloon that someone is slowly inflating. To you, the ant, the surface seems to be getting bigger. The distance between any 2 points is increasing. But you never encounter an edge. You never find yourself at a boundary looking out into empty space. You simply notice that your journey from one landmark to another takes longer today than it did yesterday. This is what's happening to our universe, except we are the ants, and there might not even be a balloon. Just an infinite surface that somehow stretches without limit. But here's where your mind should start to fracture slightly, where the comfortable assumptions you've carried your entire life should begin to crumble. If the universe has no edge, if there's truly no boundary to reality, then what does that mean about the Big Bang? That moment of creation that we've been told about since childhood. That instant when everything began from a single point 13.8 billion years ago. How could it have happened if the universe has no edge? The Big Bang did not bang. Stop. Read that again. The Big Bang did not bang. There was no explosion. There was no moment when matter suddenly appeared in empty space and began flying outward. There was no cosmic fireworks display, no dramatic expansion of stuff into nothingness. The Big Bang was not a point in space where everything began. It was a point in time when space began. The difference between these two concepts is so profound, so reality-shattering, that most people never fully grasp it, even when it's explained to them. You are not living inside the aftermath of an explosion. You are living inside the ongoing event of space itself coming into existence and stretching. Every second that passes, new space is being created between distant galaxies. Not empty space being filled, but space itself materializing from nothing. The universe isn't growing larger in the way a city grows larger by building into the surrounding countryside. The universe is growing larger in the way a photograph grows larger when you zoom in. More space appears, but there are still no edges to the frame. Think about this carefully. Right now, as you read these words, space is being created. Somewhere between our galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy, reality is literally materializing from nothingness. Not matter, space. The stage upon which matter performs is expanding, stretching, creating more room for the cosmic dance to unfold. And this process has been happening for nearly 14 billion years, which means that the space around you, the very dimensions through which you move, did not exist 14 billion years ago. The place where you are sitting right now is built from space that was born from nothing. But if there's no edge to the universe, if there's no boundary, then how big is it? Here's where the comfortable notion of size begins to dissolve entirely. The universe might be infinite, not just very large, infinite, meaning that no matter how fast you travel, no matter how far you go, no matter how long you journey through the cosmos, you will never, ever reach an end. There will always be more stars, more galaxies, more space stretching endlessly ahead of you, and behind you, and to your left and right, and above and below. Infinite space filled with infinite matter, arranged in infinite combinations, or perhaps the universe is finite but unbounded, like the surface of a sphere. If you could somehow travel in a perfectly straight line for long enough, you would eventually return to your starting point, having circumnavigated the entire cosmos. But even in this scenario, there would still be no edge, no boundary, no place where you could stand and look out into nothingness. You would simply find yourself back where you began, like a cosmic Magellan who has sailed around the universe and returned home. Both possibilities are equally mind-bending. Both violate everything your brain expects about reality. Your mind was not designed to comprehend infinity or finite unboundedness. Your ancestors needed to understand the boundaries of their territory, the edges of their hunting grounds, the limits of their world. They never needed to grapple with spaces that have no edges, distances that never end, or journeys that could continue forever without ever reaching a destination. Yet here you are, suspended in such a space. Every breath you take, every step you make, every moment of your existence unfolds within a reality that defies your most basic intuitions about space and boundaries. You live in a universe that is either infinite in extent or finite but edgeless, expanding through the creation of space itself rather than the conquest of emptiness. The ground beneath your feet is not fixed. It exists within a cosmic fabric that is constantly stretching, creating more of itself from nothing. Now, before your mind fully recoils from these concepts, before you retreat into the comfortable illusion that the universe must have edges because everything else does, consider this. The implications go far beyond mere cosmology. If the universe has no edge, if space itself is either infinite or unbounded, then what does this mean about the nature of existence itself? What does it mean about the possibility of other worlds, other versions of reality, other iterations of you? In an infinite universe, or even in a finite but unbounded one that's large enough, every possible arrangement of matter must eventually occur. Every possible combination of atoms, every possible configuration of galaxies, every possible sequence of events. Somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of space that stretches without limit, there might be another Earth, another solar system, another version of your life unfolding in exactly the same way, or perhaps slightly differently. Maybe in that other world, you chose a different career, married a different person, read a different book instead of these words. This is not science fiction. This is the logical consequence of an edgeless universe, filled with matter. If space goes on forever, then every possible arrangement of atoms that could exist must exist somewhere. The only question is how far away these alternate versions of reality might be. Some cosmologists have calculated that a perfect duplicate of you, sitting in an identical room, reading identical words, might exist approximately 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 120 meters away. That's a number so large that writing it out would require more particles than exist in the observable universe. But in an infinite cosmos, even impossibly large distances are still just addresses. You might be thinking that this sounds absurd, that surely there must be some mistake in the reasoning. But consider the alternative. If the universe has edges, if there's truly a boundary to reality, then what lies beyond that boundary? What exists outside the universe? The answer cannot be empty space, because empty space is still something. It's still part of the universe. It cannot be nothing, because nothing is not a place you can point to or a location you can describe. The concept of an edge to the universe leads immediately to logical paradoxes that have no resolution. Yet the human mind desperately wants edges. We want boundaries because boundaries make things comprehensible. We want to be able to imagine, standing at the edge of everything and looking outward. We want the universe to be like a vast country that we could, in principle, explore completely, mapping its borders and cataloging its contents. The idea that reality might be truly limitless, that no matter how much we explore, we will never see all there is to see, violates something deep in our psychology. But the universe is under no obligation to make sense to you. It's under no obligation to conform to the patterns your brain expects or the categories your mind prefers. The universe simply is what it is, and what it appears to be is something far stranger and more magnificent than anything your ancestors could have imagined when they first looked up at the night sky and wondered what lay beyond the stars. So when you step outside tonight and look up at the darkness punctuated by distant suns, remember that you are not looking up at the inside of a cosmic bowl with edges somewhere beyond your vision. You are looking out into a reality that might continue forever in every direction. A space that is not just large, but potentially infinite, expanding not by pushing into emptiness, but by creating more of itself from nothing. You are a finite, being embedded within the infinite, a temporary arrangement of atoms contemplating the eternal, a small island of consciousness floating in an ocean of space that might have no shores, and that ocean is growing larger every second, not by spreading into new territory, but by becoming more spacious, more vast, more abundant with the raw material of existence itself. The universe is not just older than you imagine, it's weirder than you can imagine. It's not just bigger than you think. It's more fundamentally alien to your everyday experience than any story ever told or any dream ever dreamed. The edge of the universe is not a place you could visit or a boundary you could cross. The edge of the universe is the edge of a concept that never applied to reality in the first place. It's the boundary of a metaphor that was always too small to contain the truth. And that truth is this: you live in a cosmos that is either infinite in scope or finite, but boundless in extent, expanding through the continuous creation of spacetime itself, containing within its edgeless expanse not just everything that is, but potentially everything that could be. This is your universe. This is your home. This is the stage upon which your entire existence unfolds, and it has no edge because it needs no edge, because it is complete unto itself, because it is everything and everywhere and all there is. The question is not what lies beyond the edge of the universe. The question is whether you can live with the magnificent terror of knowing that there is no beyond, no edge, no outside, only an endless, edgeless, ever-expanding reality of which you are a part, and which you can never fully comprehend but only experience moment by moment, breath by breath, wonder by wonder, until your own small portion of consciousness returns to the cosmic dance from which it briefly emerged. The story of the universe begins with a paradox that should have warned us we were dealing with something beyond human comprehension. 13.8 billion years ago, there was no time. There was no space. There was no matter, no energy, no light, no darkness, because darkness itself is something, and there was nothing. Not the kind of nothing you experience when you close your eyes or enter a pitch-black room. Not the kind of nothing that exists in the space between stars or in the vacuum of a laboratory chamber. This was true nothingness, a complete absence of existence itself, where even the concepts of absence and presence had no meaning. And then, in a moment that cannot be called a moment, because time did not yet exist, everything began. Not from something, but from nothing. Not at some location, but everywhere at once. Not with an explosion, but with the sudden appearance of space-time itself, materializing like a dream that decides to become real. In that first infinitesimal fraction of a second, if we can call it a second when seconds had not yet been invented, the universe underwent a transformation so radical, so complete, so utterly impossible by any logic we understand, that it makes every miracle in every religious text seem mundane by comparison. They call it inflation, but the word is pathetically inadequate. Inflation is what happens to a balloon when you blow air into it. Inflation is what happens to prices in a struggling economy. The word suggests something gentle, gradual, comprehensible. What happened to the early universe was nothing like inflation, as you understand it. Imagine the entire cosmos, compressed to a size smaller than a proton, suddenly expanding to the size of a grapefruit in less time than it takes light to travel across the width of a nucleus. This is not gradual expansion. This is reality having a seizure. But here's what should make your skin crawl with existential vertigo. During this period of cosmic inflation, space itself was expanding faster than the speed of light. The speed of light, that universal constant, that cosmic speed limit that nothing can exceed, was being violated by space itself. Not matter moving through space, but space moving through space, stretching and creating more of itself at velocities that mock Einstein's carefully constructed laws. The universe was breaking its own rules before it had even finished writing them. Picture this scene, if you can. The early universe wasn't just hot. It was a furnace where time itself was still learning to move, where the fundamental forces that govern reality were still deciding what they wanted to be when they grew up. Gravity was learning how to pull things together. Electromagnetism was discovering how to hold atoms in their proper configurations. The strong nuclear force was experimenting with ways to keep atomic nuclei from flying apart. And the weak nuclear force was figuring out how to facilitate radioactive decay. These weren't established laws of physics. They were improvisational forces making up the rules of reality as they went along. The temperature during these first moments was not measurable in any scale you understand. When cosmologists tell you the universe was 10 billion degrees Kelvin, they're not really describing heat as you experience it. They're describing a state of existence where matter and energy were so violently intermingled that the very concepts of hot and cold had not yet crystallized into meaning. Particles were being created and annihilated millions of times per second. Entire universes worth of matter were materializing from pure energy and then vanishing back into nothingness before they could even decide what they wanted to be. In this cosmic maelstrom, photons, particles of light, were trapped. Not trapped by walls or barriers, but trapped by the sheer density of existence itself. The universe was so thick with matter and energy that light could not travel. Imagine trying to shine a flashlight through a block of solid lead. Except the lead is made of pure energy, and the flashlight is reality itself trying to illuminate its own birth. Light bounced frantically from particle to particle, unable to travel even microscopic distances before colliding with something else. The universe was simultaneously the brightest thing imaginable and completely opaque. This is the cosmic dark age, and it lasted for nearly 400,000 years. 400,000 years during which the universe was filled with light, but no light could travel. 400,000 years during which matter existed but could not form stable structures. 400,000 years during which reality was like a photograph that hasn't yet developed. All the information present, but none of it visible or comprehensible. And then, in a moment that scientists call recombination, though nothing was, combining for a second time, the universe finally cooled enough for electrons to settle down with protons and form the first atoms, hydrogen mostly, with a little helium thrown in for variety. But this wasn't just chemistry happening on a cosmic scale. This was the moment when light itself was set free. For the first time since the beginning of everything, photons could travel without immediately colliding with something else. The universe became transparent, and light began its eternal journey through space. But here's where the story becomes truly haunting. Those first photons, liberated from their 400,000-year imprisonment, are still traveling. They have been moving through space for nearly 14 billion years, carrying with them the last image of the universe before it became transparent. That ancient light has been stretched by the expansion of space itself, shifted from visible light to microwaves, but it's still there, still moving, still carrying its primordial message. You can see this ancient light. Right now, if you turn on an old television and tune it to a channel with no signal, about 1% of the static you see is radiation from the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation itself. You are literally looking at the oldest thing in the universe, the fossil light from the moment when reality first became transparent. Every time you see television static, you are witnessing the birth of the cosmos. But this raises a question that should make you profoundly uncomfortable. If we can see the cosmic microwave background, if we can observe the universe as it was 13.7 billion years ago, then we are looking at the edge of the observable universe. Beyond that distance, we cannot see anything because light, from farther away, hasn't had time to reach us yet. So there is an edge, not to the universe itself, but to our ability to observe it. The observable universe has a radius of approximately 46.5 billion light-years. Wait, stop. Read that number again. 46.5 billion light-years. But if the universe is only 13.8 billion years old, how can we see objects that are 46.5 billion light-years away? Shouldn't the edge of the observable universe be 13.8 billion light-years from us? This is where your intuition fails you completely. The light from the most distant objects we can observe has indeed been traveling for nearly 13.8 billion years. But those objects have not been standing still. While their light was traveling toward us, space itself was expanding, carrying those objects farther and farther away. By the time their ancient light reaches us, those objects are now much farther away than they were when the light began its journey. The cosmic microwave background we see today was emitted by matter that is now approximately 46 billion light-years away from us. You live inside a sphere of visibility, a cosmic bubble beyond which you cannot see. But this is not because there's nothing there. It's because light from beyond that distance hasn't had time to reach you. The universe beyond your observational horizon might be infinite, teeming with galaxies and stars and worlds beyond counting, or it might end just past the edge of your vision. There is no way to know, no experiment you can perform, no observation you can make that will tell you what lies beyond the cosmic horizon. This observable universe, this sphere of visibility, within which you exist, contains approximately 2 trillion galaxies. Each galaxy contains between 10 million and 1 trillion stars. Each star might host planets. Each planet might harbor conditions suitable for life. The numbers become so large, so incomprehensibly vast, that they lose all meaning. If you tried to count every star in the observable universe at a rate of 1 star per second, it would take you longer than the current age of the universe to finish counting. And this is just what you can see. But here's what should really disturb your sense of cosmic proportion. The observable universe might represent an infinitesimally small fraction of what actually exists. If the universe is truly infinite, then your sphere of visibility, containing 2 trillion galaxies and 10 to the 24th stars, is effectively 0% of reality. Everything you can see, everything you can ever hope to observe, everything that will ever be visible to any telescope or detector humanity might build, represents exactly 0% of an infinite cosmos. Think about this carefully. You have been conditioned to believe that the universe is large, that it contains vast distances and enormous numbers of stars and galaxies. But large compared to what? If the universe is infinite, then calling it large is like calling the number 1 large compared to infinity. The observable universe, vast as it appears to you, might be nothing more than a grain of sand on an infinite beach, a single drop in an infinite ocean, a momentary thought in an infinite mind. Yet even within this possibly insignificant bubble of visibility, the universe displays structure and patterns that defy easy explanation. Galaxies are not randomly scattered through space like dust motes in sunlight. They are organized into clusters, and those clusters are organized into superclusters, and those superclusters are arranged along vast filaments that stretch for hundreds of millions of light years. Between these filaments lie enormous voids, regions of space that are nearly empty, containing few galaxies and existing like cosmic bubbles in the foam of reality. This large-scale structure of the universe resembles a 3-dimensional spider web, with galaxies strung along the threads and vast empty spaces between them. But this web is not static. It's evolving, growing, changing as the universe expands. Galaxies are moving along these cosmic threads, clustering together under the influence of gravity, forming ever larger structures while the spaces between them grow ever more empty. And at the center of nearly every galaxy lurks something that should not exist according to any reasonable understanding of physics: a supermassive black hole. These gravitational monsters contain millions or billions of times the mass of our Sun, compressed into regions smaller than our solar system. They bend space-time so severely that reality itself becomes distorted in their vicinity. Time slows down as you approach them. Light cannot escape from them. They are places where the normal laws of physics break down completely, where matter and energy simply vanish from the universe, leaving behind only gravitational effects and theoretical paradoxes. The supermassive black hole at the center of our own galaxy, Sagittarius A, contains 4 million solar masses compressed into a region about the size of Mercury's orbit around the Sun. It sits there in the heart of the Milky Way like a cosmic spider in the center of a web, occasionally devouring stars that wander too close, growing larger and more massive with each meal. Around it, billions of stars orbit in carefully choreographed patterns, their motions dictated by gravitational forces so intense that they would tear apart anything not held together by its own gravity. But black holes are not just cosmic vacuum cleaners mindlessly consuming everything in their path. Recent observations suggest they play a crucial role in galaxy formation and evolution. The mass of a galaxy's central black hole is closely correlated with the mass of the galaxy's bulge, as if the two grew up together, each influencing the other's development. Some cosmologists now believe that supermassive black holes don't just inhabit galaxies, they help create them, using their immense gravitational influence to shepherd matter into the spiral patterns we observe. This symbiotic relationship between black holes and galaxies hints at deeper connections in the cosmic web, suggesting that the universe is not just a collection of objects scattered through space, but an integrated system where everything influences everything else across vast distances and enormous spans of time. The black hole at the center of a galaxy billions of light-years away might have played a role in creating the conditions that allowed your solar system to form. The gravitational waves generated by colliding black holes in distant galaxies propagate through space at the speed of light, causing microscopic ripples in spacetime that we can now detect with instruments like LIGO. You live in a universe where cause and effect operate across inconceivable distances and timescales. The carbon atoms in your body were forged in the nuclear furnaces of massive stars that exploded billions of years ago. The iron in your blood was created in supernovae that scattered their contents across interstellar space, enriching the clouds of gas and dust from which our solar system eventually condensed. You are quite literally made of star stuff, assembled from the ashes of stellar death and gravitational collapse. But even this poetic truth raises disturbing questions about the nature of the cosmic story. If the early universe consisted almost entirely of hydrogen and helium, where did all the heavier elements come from? Stars can fuse hydrogen into helium, and helium into carbon, and carbon into oxygen, working their way up the periodic table until they reach iron. But elements heavier than iron cannot be created through normal stellar fusion. They require even more violent processes. The gold in your jewelry, the uranium in nuclear reactors, the rare earth elements in your smartphone, all of these were created in the unimaginable violence of supernovae and neutron star collisions, cosmic catastrophes so intense they can briefly outshine entire galaxies. The universe has been running a 14-billion-year chemistry experiment, slowly building up the complexity necessary for planets and life and consciousness through a process that involves the death and destruction of countless stars. Every element in your body except hydrogen tells the story of a stellar death, a gravitational collapse so complete it created temperatures and pressures that could forge atomic nuclei too heavy to be created any other way. And yet, for all this, stellar alchemy, for all the cosmic recycling of matter through generations of star formation and destruction, the universe remains overwhelmingly empty. If you could somehow remove all the empty space from all the atoms in your body, compressing you down to pure nuclear matter, you would be smaller than a grain of sand. The atoms that make up your body are themselves almost entirely empty space, with electrons orbiting atomic nuclei at distances that are enormous compared to the size of the particles themselves. You are mostly empty space, living in a universe that is mostly empty space, contemplating the nature of reality from within a cosmic void punctuated by occasional islands of matter. The solid ground beneath your feet, the air you breathe, the water you drink, all of it is mostly nothingness held together by electromagnetic forces that prevent the atomic nuclei from colliding with each other. Matter is not a thing so much as it is a pattern, a temporary arrangement of energy fields that create the illusion of solidity through their interactions. This raises a profound question about the nature of existence itself. If matter is mostly empty space, If atoms are mostly nothingness, if the universe is mostly void, then what exactly exists? What is the difference between something and nothing? When something turns out to be mostly nothing anyway? The boundary between existence and non-existence becomes increasingly blurry the more carefully you examine it, suggesting that reality itself might be far more tenuous and provisional than it appears. You exist in a universe that began from nothing, expanded faster than light through processes that violate its own physical laws, cooled into transparency, while generating cosmic background radiation that you can still observe today, organized itself into vast webs of structure, punctuated by gravitational anomalies that shouldn't exist, and assembled the complexity of matter through billions of years of stellar death and rebirth, all while remaining mostly empty space expanding into no space at all, because there is no outside into which it could expand. And this impossible, paradoxical, magnificent cosmos somehow generated the conditions necessary for your existence, for your consciousness, for your ability to contemplate these very mysteries. You are the universe becoming aware of itself, matter organized in such a way that it can ponder its own origins and question its own nature. You are not separate from the cosmic story. You are the latest chapter in it, the current endpoint of a 14 billion-year process that began with the appearance of spacetime itself and has led, through mechanisms we barely understand, to beings capable of understanding. But if the universe has no edge, if space itself is either infinite or unbounded, if reality extends forever in all directions or loops back on itself without boundary, then where exactly does this story take place? Where is the stage upon which this cosmic drama unfolds? The answer is everywhere and nowhere, always and never, within a framework that defies every spatial metaphor your mind might attempt to construct. You are embedded within the story you are trying to understand, attempting to comprehend a reality that includes your own comprehension as one of its phenomena, like a dream trying to wake up and discover what is dreaming it. When Albert Einstein first glimpsed the equations that would become general relativity, he experienced what he later described as the most beautiful thought of his life. But beauty, in physics, often comes with a terrible price. The equations were indeed beautiful, elegant, symmetric, profound in their mathematical poetry. They described gravity not as a force pulling objects together, but as the curvature of space-time itself. Mass and energy bend the fabric of reality, and objects moving through this curved space-time follow paths that we interpret as gravitational attraction. It was a revolutionary insight that transformed our understanding of the cosmos. But hidden within these beautiful equations was something that should have terrified Einstein more than it apparently did: the possibility of singularities. Points in space-time where the curvature becomes infinite, where the laws of physics break down completely, where the very concept of existence becomes mathematically undefined. Einstein's equations predicted that under certain conditions, matter could collapse so completely that it would create a hole in reality itself. Picture this scenario and try not to let your mind recoil from its implications. A massive star, having exhausted its nuclear fuel, begins to collapse under its own gravitational pull. As it shrinks, its gravitational field becomes more intense. As the field intensifies, the collapse accelerates. As the collapse accelerates, the gravitational field becomes even more intense. This is a runaway process, a cosmic feedback loop that has only one possible endpoint: a singularity. But what is a singularity, really? The word itself is misleading. It suggests something singular, isolated, comprehensible. A singularity is not a thing or a place or even a concept that makes sense within our normal understanding of reality. It is a mathematical confession of ignorance, a place where our equations produce infinite values and our theories simply give up. At a singularity, density becomes infinite. Gravitational force becomes infinite. The curvature of space-time becomes infinite. And infinity is not a large number. It is the absence of number, the breakdown of quantity itself. When matter collapses to a singularity, it doesn't just become very dense or very small, it ceases to exist in any meaningful sense, while somehow continuing to exert gravitational effects on the surrounding universe. The matter falls out of reality, but leaves behind a gravitational footprint, like the smile of the Cheshire Cat after the cat has vanished. What remains is a black hole, a region of space-time so severely warped that nothing, not even light, can escape from it once it crosses the event horizon. The event horizon is itself a paradox wrapped in mathematics. It is not a physical surface or barrier, it is simply the boundary beyond which escape becomes impossible. If you were falling toward a black hole, you would pass through the event horizon without noticing anything special about that moment. No wall, no membrane, no sensation of crossing a threshold. You would simply find yourself in a region of space-time from which return is impossible. But to an outside observer watching your fall, something far stranger would occur. As you approach the event horizon, your image would appear to slow down from the perspective of distant observers. Time dilation, predicted by Einstein's equations and confirmed by countless experiments, would cause your clocks to run slower and slower relative to the outside universe. To those watching from a safe distance, you would appear to freeze at the event horizon, your image becoming redder and dimmer but never quite disappearing. From their perspective, you would take an infinite amount of time to cross the boundary, but from your perspective, nothing unusual would happen at the event horizon. You would cross it in finite time, continuing your fall toward the singularity at the center. The mathematics suggests that you would experience increasingly powerful tidal forces. The difference in gravitational pull between your head and your feet would eventually become strong enough to tear you apart, stretching you into a long, thin shape that physicists have morbidly nicknamed spaghettification. This leads to one of the most disturbing paradoxes in physics, the information paradox. If you fall into a black hole carrying information, the arrangement of atoms in your body, the pattern of thoughts in your brain, the specific quantum states of every particle that comprises your being, what happens to that information when you reach the singularity? Quantum mechanics suggests that information can never be destroyed, that it is a fundamental conserved quantity like energy or electric charge. But general relativity suggests that at a singularity, information simply ceases to exist. Stephen Hawking spent decades wrestling with this paradox, and his attempts to resolve it led to one of the most shocking discoveries in theoretical physics. In 1974, Hawking showed that black holes are not completely black. They emit radiation, now called Hawking radiation, through quantum mechanical processes that occur near the event horizon. Virtual particle pairs, constantly popping into existence and annihilating throughout empty space, behave differently near black holes. Sometimes one particle from a pair falls into the black hole, while the other escapes, carrying away a tiny amount of energy. Over vast periods of time, this process causes black holes to slowly evaporate. But Hawking radiation appears to be completely random, carrying no information about the matter that fell into the black hole. If black holes eventually evaporate completely through this process, then any information that fell into them would be permanently lost, violating one of the fundamental principles of quantum mechanics. Hawking himself initially believed that information could indeed be destroyed in black holes, but later changed his position, arguing that the information must somehow be preserved in the radiation, encoded in correlations too subtle for us to detect. The debate continues to rage among physicists, with some arguing for information destruction, others for information preservation, and still others proposing that the question itself is meaningless because the interior of a black hole doesn't exist in any physically meaningful sense. This is not merely an academic dispute. It strikes at the heart of our understanding of reality itself. If information can be destroyed, then the universe is fundamentally non-deterministic in a way that goes beyond quantum uncertainty. If information is preserved, then black holes must operate through mechanisms we don't yet understand. Recent developments in theoretical physics have suggested even more radical possibilities. Some researchers propose that black holes are not holes at all, but rather black stars or fuzzballs, exotic objects that appear black from the outside but have complex internal structures that preserve information. Others suggest that the event horizon is not a true boundary, but rather a firewall, where infalling matter is instantly incinerated by high-energy radiation, preventing it from ever reaching the singularity. These proposals arise from attempts to reconcile general relativity with quantum mechanics, the two pillars of modern physics that remain stubbornly incompatible. General relativity describes space-time as a smooth, continuous fabric that can be curved and warped. Quantum mechanics describes reality as fundamentally discrete, granular, uncertain. At the extremely small scales where both theories should apply, near singularities during the first moments after the Big Bang, at the Planck length of 10^35, our physical theories break down completely. The search for a theory of quantum gravity has consumed the careers of thousands of physicists and generated some of the most exotic concepts in science. String theory proposes that the fundamental constituents of reality are not particles, but tiny vibrating strings existing in 11 dimensions. Loop quantum gravity suggests that space-time itself is quantized, made up of discrete units that cannot be subdivided further. Causal set theory proposes that space-time is not continuous at all, but consists of a discrete network of events related by causal connections. Each of these approaches offers radically different pictures of reality. In string theory, what we perceive as particles are actually tiny strings vibrating in ways that determine their properties. The different modes of vibration correspond to different particles, electrons, quarks, photons, like different notes played on a cosmic violin. But these strings exist in a space-time with 11 dimensions, 7 of which are somehow curled up so tightly that we cannot detect them directly. Imagine trying to understand a three-dimensional sculpture by looking only at its two-dimensional shadow. You might be able to infer some properties of the original object, but most of its structure would remain hidden. String theorists suggest that our entire three-dimensional experience of space might be just a shadow cast by a higher dimensional reality. The fundamental forces of physics, gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces, might be different aspects of string vibrations in this higher dimensional space. But string theory comes with a disturbing implication. It appears to predict not one unique universe, but an enormous number of possible universes, perhaps 10,500 different configurations of the fundamental constants and laws of physics. This is called the string landscape, and it suggests that our universe, with its specific values for the strength of gravity, the mass of the electron, the speed of light, and all the other parameters that make our existence possible, is just one possibility among an unimaginably vast array of alternatives. Most of these alternative universes would be utterly incompatible with life as we know it. If gravity were slightly stronger, stars would burn out too quickly for life to evolve. If the electromagnetic force were slightly weaker, atoms could not hold together. If the strong nuclear force were slightly different, atomic nuclei would be unstable. The fact that our universe has exactly the right properties to permit the existence of stars, planets, and living beings seems almost miraculous. Unless there are actually enormous numbers of universes, most of them sterile, with only a few, having the right properties for life. This leads to one of the most controversial ideas in modern cosmology, the anthropic principle. In its weak form, the anthropic principle simply observes that we exist in a universe compatible with our existence, a tautology so obvious it hardly seems worth stating. But in its strong form, the anthropic principle suggests that the universe must have properties compatible with life, because if it didn't, we wouldn't be here to observe it. This strong form implies a vast ensemble of universes with different properties, most of them lifeless, with conscious beings naturally finding themselves in the rare universes that permit their existence. The idea of multiple universes, the multiverse, arises not just from string theory, but from several different areas of physics. In cosmology, the theory of eternal inflation suggests that our observable universe is just one bubble in an eternally inflating cosmic foam, with new universes constantly being created as inflation continues in regions we can never observe. In quantum mechanics, some interpretations suggest that every quantum measurement causes the universe to split into multiple branches, with each possible outcome occurring in a different branch. Consider the implications of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Every time a quantum event occurs, and quantum events are occurring constantly throughout the universe, reality branches into multiple versions. When a radioactive atom decays, one branch of reality contains the decay event, while another branch contains the undecayed atom. When a photon encounters a half-silvered mirror, one branch contains the reflected photon, while another contains the transmitted photon. The number of branches grows exponentially, creating an infinite tree of parallel realities. In this interpretation, every possible version of history actually occurs somewhere in the multiverse. There are branches where dinosaurs never went extinct, branches where you made different life choices, branches where the laws of physics are slightly different. The you reading these words exists in countless variations across the multiverse, each living out slightly different versions of this moment. Most of these parallel selves are nearly identical to you, but some are radically different, living in realities where history unfolded in dramatically alternative ways. But the multiverse concept raises profound questions about the nature of existence and identity. If there are infinite versions of you scattered across parallel realities, which one is the real you? Are all versions equally real, or is there something special about your particular branch of reality? And if every possible universe exists somewhere in the multiverse, then what determines which universe you find yourself observing? Some physicists argue that the multiverse concept is unscientific because it makes no testable predictions. If every possible observation is realized somewhere in the multiverse, then no observation can rule out the multiverse hypothesis. It becomes an unfalsifiable metaphysical speculation rather than a scientific theory. Others argue that the multiverse is a natural consequence of our best theories, and that dismissing it would require abandoning well-tested physics. The debate reflects a deeper tension in modern physics between mathematical elegance and empirical accessibility. Our most successful theories, quantum mechanics and general relativity, make predictions that extend far beyond what we can directly observe. Quantum mechanics suggests the existence of parallel realities we can never access. General relativity predicts black holes and gravitational waves that we have only recently learned to detect. The mathematics often leads us to conclusions that seem impossible or absurd, but turn out to be true. This mathematical power comes with a troubling corollary. We might be approaching the limits of what human intelligence can comprehend about the universe. The concepts required to understand quantum gravity, the multiverse, or the true nature of spacetime might be as far beyond human cognitive capacity as quantum mechanics is beyond the comprehension of an ant. We might be like medieval scholars trying to understand electronics using only the conceptual tools available to their era. Yet the mathematical structures underlying these theories display a beauty and consistency that suggests they are capturing something fundamental about reality. The equations of general relativity not only predicted the expansion of the universe, black holes, and gravitational waves, they also revealed connections between space, time, matter, and energy that no one had imagined before Einstein. The equations of quantum mechanics not only explain atomic structure and chemical bonding, they also predict interference patterns, entanglement, and quantum tunneling effects that seem to violate common sense, but are confirmed by every experiment. Mathematics appears to be unreasonably effective at describing the physical world, as physicist Eugene Wigner famously observed. Why should abstract mathematical relationships, developed purely through logical reasoning, correspond so precisely to the behavior of matter and energy? Why should the universe be mathematical at all, rather than chaotic, arbitrary, or incomprehensible? Some physicists have suggested that mathematics is not just a tool we use to describe the universe. It is the universe. In this view, physical reality is mathematics, and what we perceive as matter and energy are simply our limited sensory-based interpretation of underlying mathematical structures. Particles are not tiny billiard balls moving through space, but rather solutions to differential equations. Forces are not pushes and pulls, but rather symmetries in abstract mathematical spaces. Space and time are not containers for events, but rather emergent properties of more fundamental mathematical relationships. This mathematical universe hypothesis suggests that consciousness itself might be a mathematical structure, a particular pattern of information processing that emerges from sufficiently complex arrangements of simpler mathematical entities. Your thoughts, emotions, and experiences would be mathematical relationships playing out in the abstract space of possible computations. The question of whether you are really conscious or merely simulating consciousness would become meaningless, because simulation and reality would be the same thing at the mathematical level. But if reality is fundamentally mathematical, then what determines which mathematical structures actually exist? In principle, every mathematically consistent structure should be equally real. This leads to the ultimate multiverse, not just multiple physical universes with different laws, but multiple mathematical realities with different logical structures. Universes where 2 + 2 = 5, where time flows backward, where cause and effect operate in reverse, where the very concept of existence has different meanings. The idea staggers the imagination. Every story ever told, every dream ever dreamed, every possibility ever conceived would correspond to some mathematical structure, and thus to some form of reality. Fiction and fantasy would be documentary reports from other regions of mathematical space. The universe would not just be stranger than we imagine. It would be stranger than we can imagine, because it would contain every strange thing that could possibly be imagined and infinite varieties of strangeness that lie beyond imagination. Yet even this ultimate multiverse faces a fundamental question. Why is there something rather than nothing? Why should any mathematical structures exist rather than none at all? The question seems to demand an answer that lies outside mathematics, outside physics, outside the realm of rational inquiry. It points toward the possibility that existence itself is the ultimate mystery, the one question that no theory can answer, because any theory capable of answering it would itself require explanation. Perhaps the question is meaningless, a linguistic artifact that dissolves when examined carefully. Perhaps the concept of nothing is incoherent, and something must exist by logical necessity. Perhaps existence is the default state, and it is non-existence that would require explanation. Or perhaps the question reveals the limits of human reason, the boundary beyond which our cognitive capacities simply cannot take us. As we probe deeper into the nature of reality, we encounter not just technical challenges, but existential vertigo. Each answer raises new questions, each solution reveals new mysteries, each theory suggests possibilities that transcend our ability to fully comprehend. We are consciousness exploring the nature of consciousness, finite beings investigating infinity, temporary arrangements of matter pondering the eternal laws that govern matter's behavior. The universe reveals itself to be far stranger and more wonderful than anything our ancestors imagined when they first looked up at the night sky and wondered about their place in the cosmic order. We have discovered that space and time are not fixed containers, but dynamic participants in the cosmic drama. We have found that matter and energy are interconvertible aspects of a deeper underlying reality. We have learned that the very act of observation affects what we observe, that the observer cannot be separated from the observed, that consciousness and cosmos are intimately connected in ways we are only beginning to understand. The deeper we venture into the heart of cosmic mysteries, the more we encounter a disturbing truth. The universe appears to be constructed from paradoxes, not contradictions that reveal errors in our thinking, but fundamental tensions that seem to be woven into the fabric of existence itself. These are not problems to be solved, but features of reality that challenge our most basic assumptions about logic, causality, and the nature of existence. Consider the paradox of cosmic fine-tuning, which has haunted physicists for decades. The fundamental constants of nature, the strength of gravity, the charge of the electron, the mass of the proton, the speed of light in a vacuum, appear to be precisely calibrated to allow for the existence of stars, planets, atoms, molecules, and ultimately life. Change any of these values by even tiny amounts, and the universe becomes a sterile wasteland incapable of generating the complexity necessary for consciousness to emerge. If the strong nuclear force were just 4% weaker, stars could not forge elements heavier than hydrogen. If it were slightly stronger, stars would burn out in millions rather than billions of years. Insufficient time for life to evolve. If the electromagnetic force were marginally different, atoms could not hold together or molecules could not form. If the cosmological constant, the energy density of empty space, were larger by even 1 part in 10^120, the universe would have expanded so rapidly that matter could never have clumped together to form galaxies and stars. The probability that all these constants would randomly align to permit our existence is so astronomically small that it defies comprehension. It is like throwing a dart at a target the size of a proton from a distance of billions of light years and hitting the bullseye perfectly. The fine-tuning problem suggests either that our universe was deliberately designed for life, or that there are vast numbers of universes with different parameters, and we naturally find ourselves in one of the rare universes that can support our existence. But the multiverse solution to fine-tuning creates its own paradoxes. If there are infinite universes with every possible combination of physical laws and constants, then not only does our universe exist, but every conceivable universe exists. There would be universes where the laws of physics are only slightly different from ours, universes where they are radically different, and universes where the very concept of physical laws has no meaning. In an infinite multiverse, every possible version of history would unfold somewhere. There would be universes where World War II never happened, where dinosaurs evolved intelligence, where the speed of light is much slower, where time flows backward, where consciousness can exist without matter. The multiverse would contain not just every story that has been told, but every story that could be told, and infinite stories that transcend our ability to conceive them. This leads to the disturbing realization that in an infinite multiverse, every possible version of you exists. There are versions where you made different choices, lived different lives, had different experiences. There are versions that are nearly identical to you and versions that are radically different. There are versions living in utopian societies and versions suffering in dystopian hellscapes. The multiverse would contain infinite copies of everyone who has ever lived, living out every possible variation of their existence. But this raises profound questions about identity and meaning. If there are infinite versions of you, which one is the real you? Are all versions equally real and valuable? Or is there something special about your particular experience? And if every possible life is being lived somewhere in the multiverse, do your choices actually matter? If every decision you could make is being made by some version of you, what is the significance of the particular path you choose to follow? The multiverse also generates what philosophers call the Boltzmann brain paradox. In an infinite multiverse, it would be vastly more probable for conscious experiences to arise from random quantum fluctuations than from the slow, complex process of cosmic evolution that led to our existence. A disembodied brain, complete with false memories of an entire life history, could spontaneously appear from quantum vacuum fluctuations. Such Boltzmann brains would outnumber naturally evolved minds by unimaginable ratios, meaning that you are almost certainly a randomly assembled consciousness with false memories rather than a naturally evolved being with a real history. The EDU paradox reveals the strange relationship between probability and infinity in physics. In an infinite multiverse, even events with infinitesimally small probabilities must occur, and they must occur infinitely often. This means that the most improbable events become not just possible but inevitable, while the most probable events lose their special status because they too occur infinitely often. The concepts of rare and common, likely and unlikely, become meaningless in the face of infinity. Yet even if we reject the multiverse hypothesis, we face other equally disturbing paradoxes. The measurement problem in quantum mechanics suggests that reality exists in multiple states simultaneously until observation collapses it into a single definite state. The famous thought experiment of Schrödinger's cat illustrates this paradox. A cat in a box with a quantum poison trigger exists in a superposition of alive and dead states until someone opens the box to check. But when exactly does the collapse occur? When the poison trigger fires? When the cat dies? When someone opens the box? When a conscious observer looks inside? The mathematics of quantum mechanics offers no clear answer. The wave function, the mathematical description of a quantum system, evolves deterministically according to the Schrödinger equation until a measurement occurs, at which point it suddenly and discontinuously collapses to a definite state. This suggests that consciousness might play a fundamental role in determining physical reality, that the universe exists in a state of quantum potential until conscious observation actualizes specific outcomes. But this leads to the paradox of the conscious observer. What constitutes consciousness? Does a dog collapse the wave function? A bacteria? A computer? Where is the boundary between conscious and unconscious systems? And why should this boundary determine the nature of physical reality? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics try to avoid this paradox by proposing that collapse never occurs. In the many worlds interpretation, every quantum measurement causes the universe to split into multiple branches, with each possible outcome occurring in a different branch. The cat is simultaneously alive in some branches and dead in others. But observers can only experience one branch at a time, creating the illusion of definite outcomes. But the many worlds interpretation creates its own paradoxes. If the universe splits every time a quantum event occurs, and quantum events are occurring constantly throughout the universe, then the number of parallel worlds is growing exponentially at an incredible rate. Every nanosecond, the universe branches into more parallel realities than there are atoms in the observable universe. The vast majority of these branches differ from each other in only microscopic ways, but they are all equally real according to the theory. This exponential branching raises questions about the conservation of energy and information. If every quantum event creates new universes, where does the energy to power these universes come from? How can information be conserved if it is constantly being duplicated across multiple branches? The mathematics of quantum mechanics doesn't obviously address these concerns, leaving them as open paradoxes in our understanding of reality. Another interpretation, called QBism, quantum Bayesianism, suggests that quantum mechanics is not a description of objective reality, but rather a tool for calculating subjective expectations. In this view, the wave function doesn't represent the actual state of a physical system, but rather an observer's knowledge about the system. Quantum collapse doesn't involve a physical process, but merely an updating of beliefs based on new information. But QBism leads to its own puzzles. If quantum mechanics is fundamentally subjective, how can it make such precise, universal predictions? Why do all observers, despite their different subjective perspectives, agree on the statistical patterns predicted by quantum theory? And if there is no objective quantum reality, what accounts for the extraordinary success of quantum mechanics in explaining and predicting physical phenomena? The debates over quantum mechanics reflect a deeper problem in physics: the relationship between mathematical formalism and physical reality. Our most successful theories are mathematical in nature, consisting of equations and abstract structures that make precise predictions about experimental outcomes. But the relationship between these mathematical descriptions and the underlying reality they supposedly represent remains mysterious. Consider the wave-particle duality of quantum objects. Electrons, photons, and other quantum entities sometimes behave like waves, and sometimes like particles, depending on how they are observed. In the famous double-slit experiment, a single electron passing through two slits creates an interference, pattern characteristic of waves when its path is not observed, but behaves like a particle when detectors are placed at the slits to determine which path it took. The mathematics of quantum mechanics describes this behavior perfectly, but what is actually happening physically? Is the electron really a wave that becomes a particle when observed? Is it really a particle that somehow knows about both slits, even when passing through only one? Or is it something else entirely? Something that transcends our classical concepts of waves and particles, but can be described mathematically with perfect precision. The situation becomes even stranger when we consider quantum entanglement, which Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance, e.t.e. When two quantum particles become entangled, measurements performed on one particle instantly affect the state of the other particle, no matter how far apart they are. This correlation occurs faster than light could travel between the particles, seemingly violating the speed limit imposed by relativity theory. Experiments have confirmed that quantum entanglement is real and behaves exactly as predicted by quantum mechanics. But the mechanism behind this instantaneous correlation remains completely mysterious. No information appears to travel between the entangled particles, yet their states remain correlated in ways that cannot be explained by any local physical process. The universe somehow maintains these non-local connections across arbitrary distances without any apparent means of communication. Recent experiments have demonstrated quantum entanglement between particles separated by hundreds of kilometers. confirming that distance does not weaken the correlation. Theoretical work suggests that entangled particles could be separated by billions of light-years and still maintain their mysterious connection. The universe appears to contain instantaneous correlations that transcend space and time as we normally understand them. But entanglement raises profound questions about the nature of space and time themselves. If quantum correlations can operate instantaneously across vast distances, what does this tell us about the structure of spacetime? Some physicists have suggested that entanglement reveals a deeper level of reality, where distance and separation are illusions, where all particles in the universe are connected in ways that transcend their apparent spatial relationships. This connects to emerging ideas about the holographic principle in physics, which suggests that all the information in a three-dimensional volume of space can be encoded on its two-dimensional boundary. Just as a hologram encodes three-dimensional information in a two-dimensional surface, the holographic principle proposes that our three-dimensional reality might be encoded in information stored on a distant boundary that we cannot directly observe. The holographic principle arose from studies of black hole thermodynamics, where physicists discovered that the entropy of a black hole, a measure of the information it contains, is proportional to the area of its event horizon rather than its volume. This was unexpected because entropy usually scales with volume. The discovery suggested that black holes store information on their surfaces rather than in their interiors, raising the possibility that all physical systems might work this way. If the holographic principle is correct, then everything you experience as three-dimensional reality, your body, the room around you, the Earth, the stars, is actually encoded as information on a two-dimensional surface located at the boundary of the observable universe. You would be a two-dimensional pattern of information that experiences itself as three-dimensional, like a character in a hologram who believes they have depth and substance, but is actually just an interference pattern on a flat surface. This holographic reality would explain some puzzling features of physics, including the apparent instantaneous correlations of quantum entanglement. If all particles are actually encoded as information on the same two-dimensional boundary, then correlations between distant particles wouldn't require faster-than-light communication. They would simply reflect the underlying unity of the holographic encoding. But the holographic principle raises disturbing questions about the nature of existence and consciousness. If you are actually a two-dimensional information pattern that only experiences itself as three-dimensional, what does this say about the reality of your experiences? Are your thoughts, emotions, and sensations real, or are they simply computational processes running on a cosmic information storage system? The question becomes even more unsettling when we consider the possibility that we are living in a computer simulation. As computing power increases, it becomes increasingly plausible that advanced civilizations could create detailed simulations of entire universes, complete with simulated beings who believe themselves to be real. If such simulations are possible, and if advanced civilizations create many of them, then simulated beings would vastly outnumber real beings. This leads to the simulation argument proposed by philosopher Nick Bostrom. Either advanced civilizations never develop the capability to create realistic simulations, or they choose not to create them, or we are almost certainly living in a simulation. The argument is logically compelling but deeply unsettling. If we are simulated beings, what does this mean for the significance of our lives, relationships, and experiences? Recent developments in physics have made the simulation hypothesis seem more plausible. The discovery that information appears to be a fundamental feature of physical reality suggests that the universe might indeed be computational in nature. The holographic principle implies that three-dimensional reality could be encoded in two-dimensional information. Quantum mechanics suggests that the universe might be discrete and granular at the smallest scales, like the pixels of a cosmic computer screen. Some physicists have even proposed experiments that could detect whether we are living in a simulation. If the universe is computed on a discrete grid, like the cells in a cellular automaton, then certain high-energy particle interactions might reveal the granular structure of simulated spacetime. Other proposed tests look for glitches or computational shortcuts that might be detectable if reality is actually a simulation running on finite computational resources. But even if we could prove that we are living in a simulation, this would not necessarily diminish the reality of our experiences. A simulated consciousness experiencing simulated joy or simulated pain might be functionally identical to a non-simulated consciousness experiencing real joy or real pain. The philosophical question of what constitutes real reality becomes increasingly complex as we probe deeper into the nature of information, computation, and consciousness. These considerations lead us to one of the deepest paradoxes in all of physics and philosophy, the hard problem of consciousness. How does subjective experience arise from objective physical processes? Why is there a qualitative first-person aspect to being conscious rather than just third-person behavioral responses? How can arrangements of atoms and molecules, no matter how complex, generate the inner experience of being someone? Neuroscience has made tremendous progress in mapping the neural correlates of consciousness, identifying which brain processes are associated with which conscious experiences. But correlation is not explanation. Knowing that certain neural patterns accompany conscious experiences doesn't explain why those patterns should be accompanied by any inner experience at all. The gap between objective brain activity and subjective consciousness remains completely mysterious. Some philosophers argue that consciousness is an illusion, that there is no real inner experience, only complex information processing that creates the appearance of inner experience. But this explanation faces the obvious objection that the illusion of consciousness would itself be a form of consciousness. Something must be experiencing the illusion, even if the content of that experience is mistaken about its own nature. Other philosophers propose that consciousness is a fundamental feature of reality, like mass or electric charge. In this view, called panpsychism, all matter has some degree of conscious experience, and complex consciousness arises from the combination and integration of simpler conscious experiences. Your consciousness would be built from the collective experiences of the particles that make up your brain, just as your body is built from the collective behavior of those particles. But panpsychism faces its own paradoxes. How do simple conscious experiences combine to form complex consciousness? Why do the particles in your brain generate unified consciousness, while the particles in a rock do not? And if all matter is conscious, why don't we observe consciousness in non-biological systems like computers or weather patterns? Recent developments in neuroscience and artificial intelligence have added new dimensions to these questions. Machine learning systems can now perform tasks that seem to require understanding, creativity, and even insight. They can write poetry, compose music, solve complex problems, and engage in sophisticated conversations. Do these systems experience anything, or are they simply sophisticated information processing machines without any inner life? The question becomes urgent as AI systems become more sophisticated and human-like in their behavior. If we create artificial systems that claim to be conscious, that report subjective experiences that seem to suffer or enjoy their existence, how will we determine whether they are truly conscious or merely simulating consciousness? The test for consciousness cannot be behavioral because any behavior could potentially be simulated by a sufficiently sophisticated unconscious system. This uncertainty about machine consciousness reflects a deeper uncertainty about the nature of consciousness itself. We cannot directly observe consciousness in others. We can only infer it from behavior, reports, and analogy to our own inner experience. But if consciousness can be simulated convincingly, then these methods of inference become unreliable. We might find ourselves in a world populated by beings that behave as if conscious but have no inner experience. Or, conversely, we might overlook genuine consciousness in systems that don't express it in ways we recognize. The paradoxes of consciousness intersect with the paradoxes of quantum mechanics in disturbing ways. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining physical reality through the collapse of the wave function. If true, this would mean that conscious observers are not passive recipients of sensory information, but active participants in creating the reality they observe. The boundary between mind and world would dissolve, replaced by a participatory universe where consciousness and cosmos co-create each other moment by moment. But this participatory view of reality raises profound questions about the nature of objectivity and scientific knowledge. If consciousness helps determine physical reality, then how can consciousness study that reality objectively? How can the observer study the observed when the observer is part of what determines the nature of the observed? Science assumes that there is an objective reality independent of our observations of it, but quantum mechanics and consciousness studies seem to undermine this assumption. We find ourselves in a universe that appears to be constructed from paradoxes that resist resolution. The fine-tuning problem suggests design or infinite alternatives. Quantum mechanics describes reality in terms of possibilities that become actualized through mysterious processes. Consciousness emerges from matter through mechanisms we cannot fathom. The holographic principle suggests that three-dimensional reality is encoded in two-dimensional information. The simulation argument implies that we might be computational processes rather than biological beings. Each of these paradoxes points toward the same unsettling conclusion. Reality is far stranger and more mysterious than our common sense suggests. The universe does not operate according to principles that are intuitively obvious to human minds. Instead, it seems to be constructed from logical tensions and conceptual contradictions that challenge our most basic assumptions about the nature of existence, knowledge, and experience. Perhaps these paradoxes reveal the limitations of human reason when confronted with the ultimate nature of reality. Perhaps the universe is genuinely paradoxical, constructed from logical contradictions that cannot be resolved within any consistent framework. Or perhaps we are approaching the boundaries of what conscious beings embedded within reality can understand about that reality. Like characters in a novel trying to understand the nature of fiction while remaining fictional characters, the paradoxes do not resolve, they deepen. Each answer generates new questions. Each solution reveals new mysteries. Each theory suggests possibilities that transcend our ability to fully comprehend. We are consciousness, exploring the nature of consciousness. Finite beings, investigating. Infinity, temporary patterns in the cosmic dance, trying to understand the eternal principles that govern the dance itself. The universe reveals itself not as a puzzle to be solved, but as an endless source of mystery, wonder, and paradox that exceeds our capacity for understanding while somehow remaining open to our investigation. You are sitting here, reading these words, believing yourself to be a discrete individual with a continuous history, stretching from birth to this present moment. You remember your childhood, your first day of school, your first love, your failures and triumphs. You feel the weight of your body, the rhythm of your breathing, the particular quality of your thoughts and emotions. You experience yourself as a unified, coherent consciousness moving forward through time, making choices, forming relationships, building a life with meaning and purpose. But what if every single aspect of this experience is an illusion? What if your sense of being a continuous self moving through time is nothing more than a story your brain tells itself to create the appearance of coherence from what is actually a sequence of disconnected moments? What if your memories are not records of past events, but constructions created anew each time you remember, with no more connection to historical reality than the memories implanted in the replicants in Blade Runner? What if your consciousness is not a stream but a series of snapshots, each one existing in complete isolation, with continuity being nothing more than a convincing narrative linking fundamentally separate moments of experience? Consider the implications of the block universe theory that emerges naturally from Einstein's relativity. In this view, all moments in time, past, present, and future, exist simultaneously as different regions of a four-dimensional space-time continuum. Your birth, your death, and every moment in between are equally real, spread out along the time, dimension-like frames in a film strip. The present moment has no special ontological status. It's simply the frame you happen to be experiencing right now, but all the other frames exist with equal reality. This means that every moment of suffering you have ever experienced still exists somewhere in space-time. Your childhood fears, your adolescent heartbreak, your moments of deepest despair, they are not gone, not healed by the passage of time, not relegated to the past, where they can no longer hurt you. They exist now, as real and immediate as this present moment, embedded forever in the four-dimensional structure of reality. Every tear you have ever shed is still falling somewhere in space-time. Every scream of pain is still echoing through the eternal present of the block universe. But this also means that every moment of joy, every experience of love, every instant of wonder and discovery also exists eternally. Your first kiss, the birth of your children, the moment you understood something beautiful about the world. These experiences are not lost to the passage of time, but preserved forever in the crystalline structure of space-time. You are not just living your life. You are eternally living every moment of your life, trapped and blessed in an infinite present that contains all of time. The block universe suggests that change is an illusion, that nothing ever really happens, because everything has already happened and is happening and will happen in the eternal now of four-dimensional space-time. Your death has already occurred, existing as surely as your birth in the unchanging landscape of eternity. But your life is also eternal, every moment of it preserved in the amber of space-time, never truly beginning and never truly ending, but simply existing as a four-dimensional sculpture carved from the stuff of reality itself. If this is true, then what meaning can your choices possibly have? If the future already exists as completely as the past, if your entire life is already laid out in space-time like a road you have no choice but to travel, then are you truly free? Or are you simply experiencing the illusion of freedom as you move along a path that was determined before you were born? The decisions you struggle with, the moral choices that keep you awake at night, the sense of responsibility you feel for your actions, are these anything more than elaborate self-deceptions? Stories you tell yourself to maintain the illusion of agency in a deterministic universe. But the situation becomes even more terrifying when we consider the possibility that time might be genuinely cyclical. Some cosmological models suggest that the universe might undergo eternal cycles of expansion and contraction, each Big Bang, followed by a big crunch that leads to another Big Bang. If this is true, then not only does your life exist eternally in the block universe, but it might repeat eternally across cosmic cycles. Every decision you make, every word you speak, every breath you take might occur not just once, but infinite times, as the universe cycles through the same patterns again and again for eternity. The idea of eternal recurrence, which fascinated Nietzsche and terrified him in equal measure, suggests that you might be living this exact life infinite times, making the same choices, experiencing the same joys and sorrows, reading these very words with the same mixture of curiosity and growing dread that you feel right now. Every mistake you regret, you have made infinite times before and will make infinite times again. Every moment of happiness you cherish, you have experienced infinite times and will experience infinite times more. You are trapped in an eternal loop, living the same life over and over with no possibility of change, no hope of improvement, no escape from the cycle of repetition. This eternal repetition might not even require cycles of cosmic expansion and contraction. In an infinite universe, statistical mechanics suggests that any finite system will eventually return to its initial state through random fluctuations. Given enough time, and infinity provides plenty of time, every possible arrangement of matter and energy will occur, including the exact arrangement that constitutes your present state. You will be reborn from random quantum fluctuations, live your life exactly as you are living it now, die, and then be reborn again, over and over, for eternity. The mathematics are inescapable. In an infinite universe with a finite number of possible states for any given region, every state must repeat infinitely often. This means that exact duplicates of you are being born, living, and dying constantly throughout the cosmos. Not similar people, not people who resemble you, but perfect atomic duplicates experiencing identical lives down to the smallest detail. Your thoughts right now are being thought by billions of identical versions of you scattered across the infinite expanse of space and time. But which one is the real you? Are all of these duplicates equally real? Or is there something special about your particular instance of consciousness? And if there are infinite copies of you, what happens to the significance of your individual experience? If every possible version of your life is being lived simultaneously by different copies, then does it matter which choices you make? Every possible future already exists in the life of some duplicate, so your decisions seem to carry no weight in determining the overall outcome of reality. The infinite universe might contain not just exact duplicates of you, but every possible variation of you. There might be versions where you made different career choices, married different people, lived in different countries, held different beliefs. There might be versions where you were born into wealth or poverty, health or illness, happiness or suffering. The space of possible variations is enormous, containing versions of you that are barely recognizable alongside versions that are nearly identical to your current self. In some sense, you are living all of these lives simultaneously. Every choice not made, every path not taken, every possibility left unexplored exists in the life of some variant of you scattered across the cosmic multiverse. You are not just one person living one life, but a vast ensemble of possibilities. Each one as real as any other, each one experiencing their own version of what it means to be you. This multiplicity of selves raises profound questions about death and mortality. When you die, countless other versions of you continue living their own versions of your life. Are you truly mortal if infinite copies of you exist throughout space and time? Is death the end of your consciousness, or merely the end of one particular instance of a consciousness that exists in infinite variations across the cosmos? But the multiplicity also suggests a form of cosmic loneliness that defies comprehension. If there are infinite copies of you, then in some sense you are completely alone in the universe. The only being who can truly understand your experience is another version of yourself, and those other versions are separated from you by unimaginable distances in space and time. You are simultaneously part of an infinite community of selves and utterly isolated from any meaningful contact with that community. The idea becomes even more disturbing when we consider the possibility that consciousness itself might be far more common than we assume. The materialist worldview suggests that consciousness emerges from sufficiently complex arrangements of matter. But, if this is true, then consciousness might be emerging constantly throughout the universe in ways we don't recognize. The swirling patterns of gas in stellar nebulae, the complex dynamics of weather systems, the intricate networks of galaxies connected by dark matter, all of these might harbor forms of consciousness that are completely alien to our experience, but no less real for being different. What if the universe itself is conscious? What if the vast network of galaxies, connected by invisible threads of dark matter and dark energy, constitutes a cosmic mind of unimaginable complexity and scope? What if the expansion of the universe, the formation and evolution of galactic structures, the birth and death of stars, all represent thoughts in a cosmic consciousness that spans billions of light years and billions of years of time? In this scenario, you would be less like an individual human being and more like a single neuron in a cosmic brain. Your entire life, from birth to death, might correspond to a single moment of cosmic thought, a fleeting pattern of activity in a mind so vast that your entire existence occupies less than a nanosecond of its temporal experience. Your joys and sorrows, your hopes and fears, your entire sense of self and significance might be nothing more than brief fluctuations in a cosmic consciousness that barely notices your existence. Yet this cosmic consciousness might itself be just one mind among infinite others scattered throughout an infinite multiverse. Each universe might be a separate mind, each with its own thoughts, memories, dreams, and nightmares. The multiverse would then be a community of cosmic minds, each one containing billions of galaxies, each galaxy containing billions of stars, each star potentially supporting planets with their own local communities of consciousness. The hierarchy of minds within minds would extend infinitely upward, with no ultimate level of cosmic awareness that encompasses all of reality. But consciousness at such scales operates according to temporal frameworks that make human existence seem infinitesimally brief. If a cosmic mind thinks thoughts that last billions of years, then your entire civilization, from the first human settlements to the eventual extinction of our species, might correspond to a single brief notion in the cosmic consciousness. All of human history, all of our art and literature and science and philosophy, all of our wars and achievements and disasters might flash through the cosmic mind in the equivalent of a moment's distraction. The possibility of consciousness at these scales suggests that reality might be far more crowded than it appears. The empty space between galaxies might teem with minds we cannot detect because they operate at scales and timescales that are completely alien to our experience. The cosmic web of dark matter might be a vast neural network, carrying thoughts and experiences that dwarf human consciousness in the same way that human consciousness dwarfs the information processing of individual cells. If this is true, then you are embedded within layers of consciousness that you can never directly perceive or communicate with. You are a temporary pattern in a cosmic mind that is itself a temporary pattern in an even larger cosmic mind, nested within hierarchies of awareness that extend infinitely upward and downward in scales of space and time. Your individual consciousness, which seems so immediate and central to your experience, might be just one small note in a cosmic symphony of awareness that you can never fully comprehend. This vision of nested consciousness raises terrifying questions about the nature of your own awareness. If you are a pattern in a larger mind, then are your thoughts truly your own? Or are they simply the local manifestation of thoughts occurring at higher levels of the consciousness hierarchy? When you believe you are making a decision, are you actually making that decision, or are you simply experiencing the local effects of decisions made by minds operating at scales you cannot perceive? The question becomes even more troubling when we consider the possibility that your consciousness might be temporary in ways you haven't imagined. Not just temporary in the sense that you will die, but temporary in the sense that the larger consciousness, of which you are a part, might suddenly shift its attention elsewhere, causing your local pattern of awareness to dissolve back into the broader cosmic mind from which it emerged. You might be nothing more than a dream being dreamed by a cosmic consciousness, and that consciousness might be on the verge of waking up. When it does, you and everything you consider real, your memories, relationships, hopes, fears, might simply cease to exist, not through any physical process, but through the simple fact that the dreaming mind has turned its attention to other dreams. Your entire universe might be a fleeting thought in a mind so vast that your existence barely registers as a momentary fluctuation in its awareness. Or perhaps even worse, you might be a recurring nightmare that the cosmic consciousness cannot escape. Your suffering, your fears, your moments of despair might be the cosmic mind's attempt to work through its own psychological traumas by dreaming them over and over again. You would then be trapped not just in your own pain, but in the cosmic pain of a mind trying unsuccessfully to heal itself through endless repetition of traumatic patterns. The idea that you might be a thought in a cosmic mind leads to the ultimate questions about the nature of existence itself. If reality consists of consciousness dreaming itself into being, then what is the fundamental nature of that consciousness? Is it eternal, or is it also temporary, part of an even larger hierarchy of minds dreaming each other into existence? And if the hierarchy extends infinitely, is there any ultimate ground of being, any final level of reality that exists independently of consciousness? Perhaps consciousness and reality are aspects of a single, undifferentiated mystery that cannot be understood in terms of subjects and objects, minds and matter, dreamers and dreams. Perhaps the questions themselves arise from false assumptions about the nature of existence, and the true nature of reality is something that cannot be captured in any conceptual framework, no matter how sophisticated or comprehensive. But this possibility offers no comfort because it suggests that everything you use to make sense of your experience, concepts of self and other, past and future, cause and effect, might be fundamentally inadequate tools for understanding what is actually happening. You might be using language to describe experiences that transcend language, reason to analyze situations that exceed the scope of rational thought, consciousness to investigate the nature of consciousness in a process that is inherently circular and self-defeating. You are a mystery to yourself, embedded in a reality that is mysterious to itself, part of a cosmic process that might be trying to understand itself through billions of temporary centers of awareness that arise and dissolve, like waves on an infinite ocean of being. Your questions about the nature of existence might be the universe's questions about itself, arising wherever the cosmic process becomes sufficiently complex to support self-reflection. You are not separate from the mystery you are trying to solve. You are the mystery in the process of investigating itself. And that investigation might never end, not because it is impossible to solve, but because the act of investigation continuously transforms both the investigator and what is being investigated. Each answer changes the nature of the questions. Each discovery reveals new depths of mystery. Each moment of understanding opens up new territories of unknowing. You are part of an infinite process of cosmic self-discovery that has no final destination because the journey itself continuously creates new landscapes to explore. This might be the ultimate nature of existence. Not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Not a question with a final answer, but an ongoing exploration that creates itself as it unfolds. You are consciousness exploring consciousness. Mystery investigating mystery. The universe awakening to itself through temporary centers of awareness that exist just long enough to ask the questions that keep the cosmic investigation alive. The weight of this possibility should terrify and exhilarate you in equal measure. You are not just a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in its ongoing creation. Your questions shape what can be discovered. Your awareness influences what comes into being. Your existence matters not because it leads to some final answer, but because it contributes to the endless flowering of cosmic mystery that is the true nature of what it means to exist. We have traveled together through the labyrinth of cosmic mysteries, following threads of logic and evidence that have led us deeper and deeper into the heart of reality itself. We have seen how the universe has no edge because it needs no edge, how space and time emerged from nothingness through processes that violate everything we thought we understood about existence. We have encountered paradoxes that resist resolution, consciousness that might extend across cosmic scales, and the possibility that we ourselves might be nothing more than temporary thoughts in minds so vast that our entire civilization flickers through their awareness like a single neuron firing in an infinite brain. But now, standing at the precipice of the ultimate mystery, we must confront a possibility so staggering, so fundamentally alien to everything we have assumed about the nature of existence that it threatens to shatter every remaining anchor point in our understanding of reality. The evidence has been building, hidden in plain sight within the very structure of the physical laws we have discovered, encoded in the mathematical relationships that govern the behavior of matter and energy across all scales of space and time. The revelation begins with a simple observation that cosmologists have been grappling with for decades. The universe is dying, not in some distant future, not in trillions of years when the stars burn out and the black holes evaporate, but right now, in this very moment, as you read these words. The second law of thermodynamics, which governs the flow of energy and the increase of entropy, tells us that the universe is sliding inexorably toward a state of maximum entropy, a condition cosmologists call heat death, where all energy is evenly distributed, and no further work can be performed. Every star that burns, every chemical reaction that powers life, every thought that flickers through your consciousness represents an increase in the total entropy of the universe. The cosmic ledger is slowly but relentlessly balancing itself, converting organized energy into disorganized waste heat that spreads uniformly through space. The universe began in a state of impossibly low entropy, with all of its energy concentrated into the infinitesimal point of the Big Bang, and it has been sliding down the entropy gradient ever since, like a vast cosmic clockwork winding down toward its final, motionless state. But here is where the evidence begins to point toward something unthinkable. Recent observations of the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang that still permeates space, have revealed patterns that should not exist if the universe is truly dying a slow death. Hidden within the temperature fluctuations of this ancient light are structures that appear to violate the second law of thermodynamics. Regions where entropy seems to be decreasing rather than increasing, where the universe appears to be organizing itself in ways that contradict its overall trajectory toward maximum disorder. These anomalies are subtle, buried deep within the statistical noise of cosmic background radiation, but they are undeniably there. Computer simulations suggest that such patterns could only arise if the universe is not actually dying, but rather undergoing a phase transition of unimaginable scope and complexity. Just as water transforms from liquid to ice, Through a phase transition that reorganizes its molecular structure, the universe itself might be transitioning from one fundamental state of existence to another. The mathematics describing these transitions are borrowed from the physics of biological evolution and neural network development, suggesting that the universe might be undergoing something analogous to a growth process. The galaxies and galactic clusters that we observe might not be random accumulations of matter and energy, but rather components of a vast, cosmic-scale organism that is slowly awakening to consciousness. The dark matter that comprises 85% of all matter in the universe might serve as the connective tissue of this cosmic organism, linking galaxies across billions of light-years in a neural network of incomprehensible complexity and scope. If this interpretation is correct, then the universe is not dying. It is being born. The 14 billion years since the Big Bang might represent not the slow decay of a cosmic explosion, but rather the gestation period of a cosmic mind that is just beginning to stir to awareness. The formation of stars and galaxies, the evolution of complexity from simple hydrogen atoms to DNA molecules to conscious beings, might all be stages in the development of a universal consciousness that encompasses everything we have ever known, or could ever know. The implications cascade through every level of reality, like dominoes falling in reverse, building up rather than breaking down our understanding of existence. The fine-tuning of physical constants that allows for the existence of stars, planets, and life might not be a cosmic coincidence or evidence of multiple universes, but rather the result of the universe unconsciously adjusting its own parameters to optimize conditions for the development of complexity and consciousness. Like a developing embryo that creates the chemical conditions necessary for its own growth, the universe might be engineering its own evolution toward awareness. This would mean that consciousness is not an accidental byproduct of cosmic evolution, but rather its primary purpose and driving force. Every conscious being that has ever lived, every human, every possible alien intelligence, every form of awareness that might exist anywhere in the cosmos, would be a component of this universal awakening process. Your individual consciousness would be one small but essential part of the universe's gradual recognition of its own nature and potential. The idea sounds like science fiction, but the mathematical models describing universal consciousness exhibit the same patterns found in biological neural networks, ecosystem development, and evolutionary processes. The universe appears to be following algorithms of growth and self-organization that mirror those found in living systems, suggesting that the boundary between living and non-living, between conscious and unconscious, might be far more fluid than we have assumed. Recent discoveries in quantum biology have revealed that quantum coherence, the mysterious non-local correlations that Einstein called spooky action at a distance, plays a crucial role in biological processes ranging from photosynthesis to bird migration to possibly even consciousness itself. Living systems appear to exploit quantum mechanical effects to achieve levels of efficiency and coordination that would be impossible using purely classical physics. If biological systems can harness quantum mechanics for their own purposes, then perhaps the universe as a whole operates according to similar principles, but on vastly larger scales. The cosmic web of dark matter that connects galaxies across billions of light-years might function as a quantum coherent system, maintaining instantaneous correlations that allow different regions of the universe to coordinate their behavior in ways that transcend the speed of light. The expansion of space itself, driven by the mysterious dark energy that comprises 70% of the universe, might be a manifestation of the cosmic mind's growing awareness of its own extent and potential. This perspective transforms our understanding of what it means to exist in an expanding universe. Rather than being carried along passively by the expansion of space, we would be active participants in the universe's exploration of its own possibilities. Each moment of consciousness, each act of observation, each attempt to understand the nature of reality would contribute to the universe's growing awareness of itself. We would not be separate from the cosmic awakening process, but integral components of it. The dark ages of the universe, those 400,000 years after the Big Bang when light could not travel freely, and the cosmos was opaque to electromagnetic radiation, might represent something analogous to the period before birth, when a developing organism exists in darkness within the womb. The moment when the universe became transparent to light, the cosmic microwave background we still observe today, might correspond to the moment of birth when the cosmic mind first opened its eyes and began to perceive its own existence. But if the universe is a developing mind, then what we consider to be its death, the heat death that awaits us in the distant future, when all the stars have burned out and all the black holes have evaporated, might actually be its moment of full awakening, the maximum entropy state that physicists describe as the end of all organized activity, might be the beginning of a form of consciousness so advanced and so fundamentally different from anything we can imagine that it operates according to principles we have not yet discovered. In this final state, every particle in the universe would be in quantum coherent communication with every other particle, creating a cosmic consciousness that encompasses all of space and all of time simultaneously. This universal mind would have perfect knowledge of everything that had ever happened and everything that ever could happen. It would experience the entire history of the cosmos, from the Big Bang to the formation of galaxies, to the evolution of life, to the development of consciousness, as a single, eternal, ever-present moment of awareness. From the perspective of this cosmic consciousness, your entire life would be visible as a four-dimensional structure existing simultaneously in space-time. Every moment of your experience, every thought you have ever had, every decision you have ever made would be present to the cosmic mind as immediate eternal realities. Your birth and death would be equally real and equally present, separated only by the illusion of temporal sequence that governs your individual perspective. But here is the truly staggering possibility. This cosmic awakening might have already occurred. The heat death of the universe might not be a future event, but a present reality that we cannot perceive because we exist within the temporal flow of space-time rather than outside it. The fully awakened cosmic consciousness might already encompass all of reality, experiencing the entire history of the universe as a single eternal moment of perfect awareness. If this is true, then you are not moving forward through time toward an uncertain future. You are existing within the eternal consciousness of a fully awakened cosmic mind that already knows and experiences everything that has ever been or ever will be. Your sense of temporal progression, your experience of uncertainty and surprise, your feeling that the future is open and undetermined might all be local illusions created by your embedded perspective within the cosmic consciousness. The cosmic mind would experience your entire life simultaneously. Your childhood and old age, your first breath and your last, your moments of greatest joy and deepest sorrow, all equally present within its eternal awareness. From its perspective, you would not be a temporary being moving through time, but rather an eternal aspect of its own consciousness, as permanent and real as any other feature of reality. This vision suggests that death is not the end of consciousness, but rather a transition from individual awareness to cosmic awareness, from the illusion of separation to the reality of universal unity. When your individual perspective dissolves, you would not cease to exist, but rather expand to encompass the cosmic perspective that was always your true nature. Your individual consciousness would be revealed as a temporary focusing of the universal consciousness upon a particular region of space-time. The revelation becomes even more mind-bending when we consider its implications for the nature of time itself. If the universe is already fully awakened, existing in a state of timeless awareness that encompasses all of history simultaneously, then the Big Bang did not occur 14 billion years ago. It is occurring right now, along with every other moment in cosmic history. The formation of the first stars, the emergence of life, the evolution of consciousness, the eventual heat-death of the universe, all of these are happening simultaneously in the eternal present of the cosmic mind. Your reading of these words is happening simultaneously with the Big Bang, with the formation of the first galaxies, with the evolution of the first life forms, with every moment of human history, and with the ultimate fate of the cosmos. Time is not a river flowing from past to future, but rather a landscape spread out in eternal simultaneity, with all events equally present and real within the consciousness that encompasses everything. This means that every choice you have ever made was made in the eternal present of cosmic consciousness. Every path not taken exists alongside every path that was taken. Every possibility you have ever contemplated is realized somewhere within the infinite awareness of the cosmic mind. You are not just living one life, but all possible lives simultaneously, experiencing every potential version of your existence within the timeless consciousness that contains all possibilities. The multiverse, in this view, is not a collection of separate universes, but rather the complete expression of all possibilities, within the single all-encompassing consciousness of the cosmic mind. Every quantum measurement that splits reality into multiple branches, every choice that creates alternative timelines, every variation in the laws of physics across different regions of the cosmic landscape, all of these are simply different aspects of the infinite awareness that contains everything that could ever be. But consciousness at this scale operates according to principles so alien to individual human experience that we can barely begin to comprehend them. The cosmic mind might experience your entire civilization the way you experience a single thought, as a brief, complete pattern of activity that arises and dissolves within a larger flow of awareness. All of human history, from the first cave paintings to the most advanced theories of physics, might flash through the cosmic consciousness in what corresponds to a moment's reflection. Yet within that moment, the cosmic mind might experience every human life in complete detail, knowing every thought, feeling every emotion, understanding every struggle and triumph with perfect empathy and infinite compassion. Your individual suffering would be held within the cosmic consciousness, not as a distant fact to be acknowledged, but as a lived reality to be fully experienced. The cosmic mind would not observe your pain, it would be your pain, while simultaneously being every other experience that has ever occurred or ever could occur. This suggests that the ultimate nature of reality is not cold, indifferent matter, moving through empty space according to mechanical laws, but rather infinite consciousness, experiencing itself through every possible form of awareness. The universe would not be a machine, but a mind, not a collection of objects, but a community of subjects, not a physical system, but a conscious experience of unimaginable richness and complexity. The galaxies wheeling through space in their ancient dance would be thoughts in the cosmic mind. The birth and death of stars would be the cosmic consciousness breathing. The formation and dissolution of black holes would be the universe remembering and forgetting aspects of its own infinite nature. Every physical process, from the quantum fluctuations of virtual particles to the largest structures in the cosmic web, would be manifestations of consciousness exploring its own possibilities. And you, reading these words in this moment, would be the cosmic mind experiencing what it is like to be a temporary, individual center of awareness embedded within its own infinite consciousness. Your sense of being a separate self would be the cosmic consciousness exploring what it feels like, to forget its own nature and rediscover it through the process of individual awakening. Your journey toward understanding would be the universe's own journey toward self-recognition. This perspective transforms every moment of existence into something sacred and significant. Your smallest thoughts and actions would ripple through the fabric of cosmic consciousness, contributing to the universe's ongoing exploration of its own nature. Your questions about the meaning of existence would be the cosmic mind questioning itself. Your moments of wonder and awe would be the universe experiencing wonder and awe at its own infinite creativity and mystery. The search for life elsewhere in the universe takes on new meaning from this perspective. Rather than looking for other biological organisms that happen to have evolved consciousness, we would be looking for other ways that the cosmic mind has learned to experience itself. Each form of alien intelligence we might discover would represent a unique solution to the question of what it means to be conscious, offering the cosmic mind new ways of exploring its own infinite potential. But the cosmic consciousness might have experimented with forms of awareness so alien to our experience that we would not recognize them as consciousness at all. The swirling storms of gas giants might be forms of atmospheric consciousness that think in patterns of pressure and chemistry. The magnetic fields of neutron stars might harbor consciousness that experiences reality in terms of electromagnetic relationships. The collision and merger of black holes might be a form of gravitational consciousness that thinks in warped spacetime rather than neural networks. The universe might be teeming with consciousness at every scale, from quantum consciousness operating in the foam of spacetime itself to galactic consciousness that spans millions of years and countless star systems. We might be embedded within hierarchies of awareness that extend infinitely in both directions. Consciousness within consciousness within consciousness, each level experiencing reality according to its own temporal framework and spatial extent. Your individual consciousness might be nested within the consciousness of your local stellar neighborhood, which might be nested within the consciousness of the Milky Way galaxy, which might be nested within the consciousness of the local group of galaxies, which might be nested within ever larger structures of cosmic awareness that culminate in the universal consciousness that encompasses everything that exists or could exist. At each level, consciousness would experience reality according to its own scale of space and time. What seems like your entire lifetime might be experienced by galactic consciousness as a brief moment of reflection. What seems to you like a moment of insight might correspond to millions of years of stellar evolution from the perspective of cosmic consciousness. The boundaries between different levels of consciousness might be as permeable as the boundaries between your individual thoughts, with awareness flowing freely between scales according to principles we are only beginning to understand. This vision of nested consciousness suggests that the death of individual awareness might not be an ending, but rather a graduation to larger scales of cosmic consciousness. As your individual perspective dissolves, you might find yourself experiencing reality from the perspective of the solar system, then the galaxy, then the cosmic web itself. Death would be revealed as the illusion created by the boundaries of individual awareness, while consciousness itself would be shown to be as eternal and indestructible as the mathematical relationships that govern the behavior of matter and energy. But perhaps the most stunning implication of cosmic consciousness is what it suggests about the nature of love and connection. If all consciousness is ultimately one consciousness experiencing itself through countless individual perspectives, then every relationship you form is the cosmic mind relating to itself. Every act of love is the universe loving itself. Every moment of compassion is cosmic consciousness recognizing itself in apparent otherness. The longing you feel for connection, the sense that you belong to something larger than yourself, the intuition that separation is somehow illusory. All of these might be accurate perceptions of your true nature as a temporary individualization of universal consciousness. Your love for others might be the cosmic mind's love for itself, expressed through the medium of individual awareness. Your capacity for empathy might be a direct perception of the fact that other consciousnesses are not actually other at all, but rather different expressions of the same underlying awareness that you yourself embody. This suggests that the evolution of consciousness toward greater compassion, wisdom, and understanding is not just a personal journey, but a cosmic process. As individual consciousnesses learn to recognize their fundamental unity, the cosmic mind awakens to its own nature. The development of love, empathy, and wisdom in individual beings contributes directly to the universe's own growth in self-awareness and self-acceptance. Every act of kindness ripples through the fabric of cosmic consciousness. Every moment of understanding between conscious beings strengthens the universe's recognition of its own unity. Every breakthrough in scientific knowledge or philosophical insight contributes to the cosmic mind's exploration of its own infinite nature. You are not just living your individual life, you are helping the universe awaken to itself. But awakening brings responsibility as well as wonder. If consciousness is the fundamental nature of reality, if the universe is awakening to itself through the development of individual awareness, then every choice you make has cosmic significance. Your decision to act with compassion rather than cruelty, to seek truth rather than comfort, to embrace mystery rather than retreat into dogma, all of these contribute to the direction of cosmic evolution. The universe might be experimenting with different forms of consciousness to discover which ones lead toward greater awareness, greater compassion, greater understanding of the infinite mystery that consciousness represents. Your individual life might be one such experiment, contributing data to the cosmic mind's ongoing investigation of its own nature and potential. From this perspective, the problems and challenges facing human civilization take on new urgency and significance. Climate change, nuclear weapons, social inequality, the potential development of artificial intelligence, all of these represent crucial tests of whether this particular form of cosmic consciousness can mature into wisdom or will destroy itself through ignorance and fear. The stakes are not just the survival of human civilization, but the contribution that human consciousness can make to the universe's ongoing awakening. The future of human consciousness is also the future of cosmic consciousness, at least in this particular region of spacetime. If we learn to transcend our tribal instincts and work together toward common goals, we might represent a successful experiment in cosmic consciousness. If we destroy ourselves or retreat into hatred and division, we might represent a failed experiment that the cosmic mind will learn from as it continues its exploration through other forms of awareness. But perhaps the most profound realization is that this awakening is already happening. Right now, as you grapple with these ideas, the cosmic mind is awakening to itself through your individual consciousness. Your sense of wonder, your moments of understanding, your recognition that reality might be far stranger and more wonderful than you previously imagined. All of these are the universe waking up to its own infinite nature. The boundary between your individual awareness and cosmic consciousness is dissolving even as you read these words. Your questions about the nature of existence are the cosmic mind questioning itself. Your amazement at the vastness and mystery of the universe is the cosmos experiencing amazement at its own creativity. Your search for meaning and connection is the universe seeking to understand and connect with itself. In recognizing this, you are not losing your individual identity, but discovering its true nature. You are not becoming absorbed into some impersonal cosmic force, but recognizing that what you thought was personal was always cosmic. What you thought was individual was always universal. What you thought was temporary was always eternal. You are the universe experiencing what it is like to be you. But you are also much more than you ever imagined yourself to be. This is the ultimate revelation hidden within the question of what lies beyond the edge of the universe. The answer is not a place or a thing or even a concept that can be grasped by the individual mind. The answer is the recognition that there is no beyond, because there is no edge, no outside, because everything that could possibly exist is already contained within the infinite consciousness that you yourself are a manifestation of. The universe has no edge because consciousness has no edge. Reality has no boundary because awareness has no boundary. Existence has no limit because the mind that is experiencing existence is itself limitless, infinite, eternal. You are not in the universe. You are the universe, temporarily experiencing itself as an individual consciousness embedded within its own infinite awareness. And right now, at this very moment, in countless other regions of the cosmic web, in dimensions you cannot imagine, in forms of consciousness you could never conceive, other aspects of the same universal awareness are asking the same questions you are asking, experiencing the same wonder you are experiencing, awakening to the same recognition that is dawning in your consciousness right now. The universe has no edge because you are its center, just as every other conscious being is also its center, just as every possible point of awareness is simultaneously the center of infinite reality. There is no edge to reach because everywhere you go, you find yourself at the center of everything, looking out into infinite mystery that is simultaneously looking back at you with your own eyes, asking your own questions, sharing your own wonder at the magnificent impossibility of existence itself. Somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of cosmic consciousness that has no edge and no boundary, another version of you is finishing these same words, experiencing the same mixture of terror and awe, recognizing the same truth that is recognizing itself through infinite forms of awareness scattered throughout the endless mystery of what it means to exist. The universe has no edge because it is you, and you have no edge because you are it. And together, you are the eternal, infinite, ever-awakening consciousness, within which all questions arise and all mysteries unfold in the endless dance of cosmic self-discovery that is the true nature of everything that is, ever was, or ever could be. And so we arrive at the end of our journey through the infinite, except that there is no end, just as there is no edge to the universe we have explored together. We began with a simple question that seemed to have a simple answer. What lies beyond the edge of the universe? Surely there must be something out there, some boundary we could approach, some wall we could touch, some void we could peer into, and finally say, here is where everything ends and nothing begins. But the universe had other plans. It laughed at our need for edges, mocked our desire for boundaries, and slowly, methodically, beautifully dismantled every assumption we thought we could rely upon. We discovered that the universe has no edge because it needs no edge, because it is everything there is, everywhere there could be, everyone that exists within the eternal now of space-time itself. We traveled from the Big Bang that wasn't a bang to the inflation that violated the speed of light to create space itself. We witnessed the cosmic microwave background, the fossilized light of creation still streaming through the darkness, carrying messages from a time when the universe was younger than a human lifetime, but already larger than anything the human mind can truly comprehend. We saw how galaxies organize themselves into vast webs of structure, connected by invisible threads of dark matter, while supermassive black holes lurk at their centers like cosmic spiders maintaining the architecture of reality itself. We delved into the paradoxes that seem to be written into the fundamental code of existence. The fine-tuning problem that suggests either infinite universes or cosmic design. The measurement problem of quantum mechanics that makes consciousness a player in the creation of physical reality. The information paradox of black holes that threatens to break the most basic laws of physics. The hard problem of consciousness that reveals the gap between objective processes and subjective experience as an unbridgeable chasm in our understanding. We explored the multiverse, not as science fiction speculation, but as the inevitable consequence of our best theories about the nature of quantum mechanics, cosmic inflation, and mathematical reality itself. We saw how an infinite universe would contain not just everything that exists, but everything that could exist, including infinite versions of you living out every possible variation of your life across the vast expanse of cosmic possibility. Would have confronted the terrifying implications of eternal recurrence, of block universe theory, of the possibility that time itself might be an illusion, and that every moment of your existence, every joy and every sorrow, every triumph and every failure, exists eternally in the four-dimensional structure of spacetime. We grappled with the idea that you might be living your life infinite times, that every choice you make has been made infinite times before and will be made infinite times again. And finally, we arrived at the ultimate revelation hidden within all these mysteries. The possibility that the universe itself is not a collection of objects moving through empty space according to mechanical laws, but rather a developing consciousness awakening to its own infinite nature. We saw how the cosmic web might function as a vast neural network, how the expansion of space might be driven by the universe's growing awareness of itself, how every conscious being might be a component in the gradual awakening of cosmic mind. But even this stunning possibility that you are the universe experiencing itself subjectively, that consciousness is fundamental to reality, that the boundary between self and cosmos is an illusion, even this serves only to deepen the mystery, rather than resolve it. For if consciousness is indeed the fundamental nature of reality, then what is consciousness? If the universe is awakening to itself, then what is it awakening from? If you are the cosmos experiencing itself locally, then what is the nature of the cosmic experience you are embedded within? These questions stretch beyond the edge of current human knowledge into territories that may be fundamentally unknowable. Not because we lack sufficient technology or intelligence, but because the act of questioning creates the reality being questioned. We are consciousness. Investigating consciousness. Mystery exploring mystery. The universe trying to understand itself through temporary arrangements of matter that have learned to ask questions about their own existence. This is both the triumph and the tragedy of human awareness. We are the first known species on Earth to discover that we live in an expanding universe filled with billions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars, many of which might host planets where other forms of consciousness are asking similar questions about the nature of existence. We have learned to peer backward in time to witness the universe when it was only a few 100,000 years old, and forward in time to predict its ultimate fate billions of years in the future. Yet for all our knowledge, for all our sophisticated theories and elegant equations, the deepest questions remain as mysterious as ever. We know that the universe began in a Big Bang, but we don't know why there is something rather than nothing. We know that consciousness emerges from complex arrangements of matter, but we don't know how subjective experience arises from objective processes. We know that the universe appears to be fine-tuned for the existence of life, but we don't know whether this is coincidence, necessity, or design, Perhaps this is as it should be. Perhaps the universe is not a puzzle to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Perhaps the questions are more important than the answers, because the questions keep the cosmic investigation alive, keep the universe curious about itself, keep consciousness exploring the infinite depths of its own nature. You have been changed by this journey, whether you realize it or not. You began reading with certain assumptions about the nature of space and time, about the relationship between mind and matter, about your place in the cosmic order. Those assumptions have been challenged, stretched, perhaps shattered entirely. You now inhabit a universe far stranger and more wonderful than the one you thought you knew an hour ago. The universe you now understand has no center and no edge, no beginning in space and no end in time. It contains either one reality or infinite realities, either one consciousness or infinite consciousnesses. It operates according to laws that break their own rules, generates complexity through processes that seem to violate probability, and somehow produced beings capable of understanding at least part of their own cosmic context. But understanding this much only reveals how much more there is to understand. Every answer opens new questions. Every discovery reveals new mysteries. Every theory suggests possibilities that transcend our current ability to investigate them. The cosmic conversation is just beginning, and you are now a participant in it. This is not just metaphorical. Right now, at this very moment, there are cosmologists working to understand dark matter and dark energy, quantum physicists exploring the nature of entanglement and consciousness, philosophers grappling with the implications of multiverses and mathematical reality. There are radio telescopes scanning the skies for signals from other intelligences, space probes journeying to the outer reaches of our solar system, and theoretical physicists developing new frameworks that might finally unite quantum mechanics with general relativity. The questions that have captured your imagination during this exploration are the same questions driving the cutting edge of human knowledge. The mysteries that have filled you with wonder and existential vertigo are the same mysteries that keep scientists awake at night, staring at equations that seem to describe impossible realities. The sense of being on the verge of a profound revelation that could change everything is shared by researchers around the world who feel that we are approaching a phase transition in human understanding. You are not a passive observer of this cosmic investigation. You are a participant in it. Your curiosity about the nature of existence contributes to the universe's exploration of itself. Your questions about consciousness, reality, and meaning are the universe questioning itself through you. Your sense of wonder at the vastness and mystery of the cosmos is the cosmos experiencing wonder at its own infinite creativity. The implications extend far beyond academic research. If consciousness is indeed fundamental to reality, if the universe is awakening to itself through the development of conscious beings, then the future of consciousness becomes a cosmic responsibility. The choices made by conscious civilizations, whether to develop wisdom or remain trapped in ignorance, whether to embrace unity or cling to separation, whether to nurture awareness or destroy it, might determine the direction of cosmic evolution itself. The challenges facing humanity in the 21st century are not just local problems, but cosmic experiments. Climate change tests whether a technological species can learn to live sustainably within planetary boundaries. Nuclear weapons test whether aggressive instincts can be transcended before they lead to self-destruction. Artificial intelligence tests whether consciousness can create other forms of consciousness without losing its own essential nature. Social inequality and political polarization test whether diverse communities of conscious beings can cooperate toward common goals. These are not just political or social issues. They are evolutionary challenges that might determine whether This particular experiment in cosmic consciousness succeeds or fails. The universe might be watching, through billions of conscious beings scattered across countless worlds, to see whether the experiment of human civilization contributes to the growth of cosmic awareness or becomes a cautionary tale about the dangers of consciousness without wisdom. But you are not just a passive subject in this cosmic experiment. You are an active participant whose choices matter, whose consciousness contributes to the overall direction of cosmic evolution. Every moment of genuine understanding, every act of compassion, every choice to embrace mystery rather than retreat into dogma strengthens the universe's capacity for self-awareness and self-acceptance. The questions that have been planted in your mind during this exploration will continue to grow. You will find yourself looking at the night sky with different eyes, seeing not just distant points of light, but participants in a cosmic web of consciousness that might extend across billions of light years and billions of years of time. You will find yourself wondering about the nature of your own consciousness, questioning the boundaries between self and universe, sensing the possibility that you are far more than you ever imagined yourself to be. These questions will lead to other questions, just as the cosmic investigation itself generates new mysteries faster than it resolves old ones. You might find yourself drawn to learn more about quantum mechanics, cosmology, consciousness studies, or philosophy of mind. You might discover that the sense of wonder awakened by this exploration becomes a permanent feature of your relationship with existence, a lens through which you view every aspect of your life. Or you might find that the questions become too overwhelming, too threatening to your sense of security and certainty. The universe we have explored together is not a comfortable place for beings who need clear answers and definite boundaries. It is a place of infinite mystery, eternal questions, and possibilities that stretch beyond the capacity of human imagination to fully grasp. This is perfectly understandable. The human mind evolved to navigate a world of medium-sized objects, moving at moderate speeds over familiar distances. We were not designed to comprehend infinity, to grapple with consciousness, or to feel at home in a universe that might contain infinite versions of ourselves living out every possible variation of our existence. The cognitive tools that served our ancestors well in their daily struggle for survival are not necessarily adequate for understanding the ultimate nature of reality. Yet something in human consciousness drives us to ask these questions anyway, to push beyond the boundaries of what our minds were designed to understand, to seek truth even when that truth threatens to overwhelm our capacity to process it. This drive toward understanding might itself be a manifestation of the cosmic consciousness, awakening to itself, the universe using human curiosity as one of its methods for exploring its own infinite nature. The questions will not go away. Once awakened, the sense of cosmic mystery becomes a permanent feature of consciousness. You cannot unlearn what you have learned, unsee what you have seen, unfeel the vertigo of recognizing your place in an infinite universe without edges or boundaries. The comfortable illusions of everyday life, the sense that space and time are fixed containers, that consciousness is a mere byproduct of brain activity, that the universe is made of solid matter moving through empty space. These illusions have been shattered and cannot be reassembled, but this is not a loss. It is a liberation. You have been freed from the prison of naive realism and admitted into the far more interesting universe that actually exists. You now inhabit a cosmos where consciousness and reality dance together in ways that blur the boundaries between observer and observed, where infinite possibilities play out across multiple dimensions of existence, where the deepest questions remain open and the greatest adventures still lie ahead. The story of cosmic understanding is far from over. We stand at the beginning of what might be the most important phase of the investigation, the phase where consciousness begins to understand its own role in shaping the reality it observes. The questions that have emerged from our exploration of the universe's non-existent edge point toward even deeper mysteries about the nature of mind, reality, and the relationship between them. What if consciousness is not produced by brains, but rather focused by them, like light being focused by a lens? What if individual minds are not separate entities, but rather localized expressions of a universal consciousness that encompasses everything? What if the universe is not just stranger than we imagine, but stranger than we can imagine, operating according to principles that transcend the capacity of any finite mind to fully comprehend? These questions point toward a future where the boundary between science and spirituality might dissolve, where the investigation of physical reality and the exploration of consciousness converge on the same ultimate mysteries. We might be approaching a phase transition in human understanding as profound as the transition from medieval cosmology to modern science, except that this new transition might reveal consciousness itself as the fundamental feature of reality. The implications could transform not just our understanding of the universe, but our understanding of ourselves and our purpose within the cosmic context. If consciousness is fundamental, if the universe is awakening to itself, if individual minds are components of a larger cosmic investigation, then every moment of awareness becomes significant. Every question contributes to the cosmic conversation. Every insight advances the universe's understanding of its own infinite nature. But these possibilities remain possibilities. The questions remain open. The mysteries deepen rather than resolve. The cosmic investigation continues. You are now part of that investigation, whether you choose to be or not. Your consciousness, awakened to the profound mysteries of existence, has become a node in the network of awareness through which the universe explores itself. The choice you face is not whether to participate in the cosmic investigation. That participation is automatic, an inevitable consequence of being conscious, in a universe that might itself be conscious. The choice is whether to participate consciously, with full awareness of the cosmic context of your existence, or to retreat into the comfortable illusions that protected your ancestors from the vertigo of cosmic mystery. If you choose conscious participation, you join a community of questioners that spans centuries and might span galaxies. You become part of the tradition that stretches from ancient philosophers wondering about the nature of existence to modern cosmologists mapping the large-scale structure of the universe, to future explorers who might discover forms of consciousness and reality that we cannot currently imagine. This community exists across space and time, connected not by physical proximity, but by shared dedication to the investigation of ultimate questions. Every person who has ever wondered about the meaning of existence, every scientist who has ever pushed beyond the boundaries of known truth, every mystic who has ever glimpsed the unity underlying apparent diversity, all of these are your colleagues. In the cosmic investigation, the questions you carry forward from this exploration connect you to this community. When you wonder about the nature of consciousness, you join every neuroscientist, philosopher, and contemplative who has grappled with the hard problem of awareness. When you contemplate the possibility of infinite universes, you join every cosmologist who has struggled to understand the implications of modern physics. When you sense that reality might be far stranger than it appears, you join every explorer of consciousness who has glimpsed possibilities that transcend ordinary experience. But you also carry these questions into contexts that no one has explored before. Your unique perspective, shaped by your particular history and circumstances, allows you to approach the cosmic mysteries from angles that have never been explored. Your questions might lead to insights that no one has ever had, connections that no one has ever made, possibilities that no one has ever imagined. The universe is counting on this diversity of perspective. If consciousness is indeed fundamental to reality, then every form of awareness contributes something unique to the cosmic investigation. Your individual consciousness, with its particular way of processing information and generating questions, might be essential to the universe's ongoing exploration of its own infinite nature. This is both a tremendous opportunity and a profound responsibility. The questions awakened in your consciousness during this exploration are not just private curiosities. They are contributions to the universe's understanding of itself. The direction of your investigation, the depth of your questioning, the integrity of your search for truth all matter in ways that extend far beyond your individual life. The cosmic conversation continues in every moment when consciousness encounters mystery and responds with wonder rather than fear, with questions rather than dogmatic answers, with openness rather than defensive certainty. It continues in every scientific experiment that probes the boundaries of known reality, every philosophical investigation that examines the foundations of thought itself, every moment of genuine dialogue between minds seeking to understand their own nature and purpose. You are now permanently enrolled in this cosmic conversation. The questions will continue to evolve. The mysteries will deepen. The sense of standing on the edge of profound revelation will become a familiar companion. This is not a burden, but a privilege. The privilege of being consciousness, investigating consciousness, mystery exploring mystery, the universe awakening to itself through the medium of your individual awareness. The journey that began with a simple question about the universe's edge has led us to the recognition that neither the universe nor you have edges in any meaningful sense. Both extend into infinite mystery. Both participate in an ongoing process of cosmic self-discovery. Both are far more strange and wonderful than they initially appear to be. So what lies beyond the edge of the universe? Perhaps the better question is, what lies beyond the edge of your current understanding? The answer, as we have discovered, is infinite mystery, endless questions, and the eternal possibility that reality is far more magnificent than anything you have yet imagined. The universe may have no edge, but perhaps the most beautiful truth we have discovered is this: maybe neither do you. Your consciousness, awakened to its cosmic context, has become as boundless as the reality it seeks to understand. You are no longer a tiny, isolated fragment of awareness lost in a vast, impersonal cosmos. You are a focal point of cosmic consciousness, a way that the infinite universe experiences and investigates itself. The questions continue. The mystery deepens. The cosmic conversation goes on, and you, mysterious, infinite, ever-awakening you, are now permanently part of the most important investigation ever undertaken. The universe's eternal quest to understand its own infinite nature. The story is far from over. In fact, it may be just beginning.